Hey everyone, Dana here with Love Soul of Flowers. It's a little late, but it's gonna be fun. So any of you who stayed up to watch this, it's gonna be fun. It has coffee and fire and craziness. So I'm just gonna wait for you guys to come on. And of course, if you're watching the replay, you can still comment when you're watching the replay, and we'll answer your questions by replying to them, okay? So if you're watching the replay, don't feel bad if you need to ask any questions while you're watching. Hi, Christina. Because we will still answer all your questions, so don't worry about that. So, hey, Erica. So we are going to be using one of my favorite things tonight. If you saw the title of this video, it says part 1. Hi, Sue. Because this is going to be a 2-part craft. So we are going to do the preparation for the craft today, and then we are going to put it together next week. Hi, Delaney. So for all of you who stayed up late to come watch, thanks for having patience with us. It's been a crazy day here for me. My kids were on remote for a couple weeks, and so, oh, Barbara, see, maybe the late night is good for you. But yeah, my kids have been on remote, and so it's been crazy trying to work and do their stuff at the same time. Hi, Sheena. Hi, everyone. Alrighty, so hi, Tatiana. Okay, so we are going to be doing some fun tonight, but I did want to remind you that Love Soul of Flowers is still having a sale. The website is lovesouloflowers.com, and it's 60% off. I know, it's fun chair, right? It is 60% off a regular Soul of Flowers, and you just use the code MARCH60. Hi, Maria. So yeah, the code MARCH60. I think the sale probably is ending soon, so if you need 60% off, go do that now. Again, it's on the regular Soul of Flowers. The code will take off anything that is not on sale. So again, that's lovesouloflowers.com. And if you're not in our community group yet, join us on facebook.com/groups/lovesouloflowers. And you can ask all of your crazy questions there, and everyone gives their feedback. And it's a fun, positive community there. So that is that. Okay, so I love antique stuff. Love it. Like, antique stuff is like my favorite thing. Like, if I can go to an antique shop and buy stuff all day long, that's what I would do. So I thought, what if I can work on some things to make my own stuff look antique? Now, I haven't decided what I'm actually going to put this on just yet because I have a few ideas. But we are going to do the preparation of the pieces that are going to be used to make our craft, okay? So I'm going to show you what I've already done. It's really fun. So everyone knows I love coffee. So I have tons of coffee in my house, and I thought, let me see if I can do something. So let me just show you the one that I did already today. So this is a Helena. If you go and search Helena, you can see that there is a 2-inch and a 3-inch, okay? So our flowers, most of them have multiple sizes. Make sure that you use the drop-down box, because I know sometimes people think they're picking one size, but they never chose which size they wanted. So this is a 2-inch and this is a 3-inch. I chose the Helena because it looks like torn edges already. So I thought that already has like that ripped paper look, right? So I dyed this in coffee, and I'm going to show you how I did it. They smell really good, very strong, but really good. But I loved how the Helena worked. But I do have some other flowers. I did a new beauty, and I'm going to try a few other flowers here too. And this is with coffee. So let me show you how I did this. Let me get my paper towel ready because the coffee is runny. Stacey, you know what's really funny? So I was going to do the flowers and coffee, and I'm like, oh, that tutorial will last like 10 seconds. So I was like, oh, let me prep for this cool next craft that I was going to do. So then I added fire and everything, so it went a little crazy, but I'm going to show you how to do everything. Okay, so in this bowl is just coffee, okay? I'm going to show you the coffee that I have here, and if you don't have this type of coffee, I'm going to show you how to mix it. They are skinless. Yeah, that's the coffee that made it look like that. Okay, so if you are a coffee drinker like me, I drink like 5 cups of coffee a day. and so I have a Keurig, and so I use K-cups, but every so often I really like a cold coffee. So I have these pods, and they are a hot and cold K-cup. So it came just with concentrated liquid, because you're supposed to be able to just pour it over like milk and ice and you don't have to do anything, right? So what I did is I just poured 4 of these pods in my bowl. Okay, I didn't water it down or anything because I wanted it to be right. I had myself at coffee. I was like, ooh, coffee? Okay. Although I was a little sad dumping it in here. I was like, is there a way to drink it after I dip these? But there's not. So I have my little K-cup again. Now, if you don't use K-cups, and if you don't have like a cold brew type thing where you can just pour it, what you're going to do is you're going to boil water, but very little amount of water. You could just microwave it too. I don't know, they say that microwaving water sometimes is dangerous because it can burst or something. But anyway, you're going to get hot water and you're going to use instant coffee. Okay, so if you don't have one of these where you can just pour it and it's concentrated, you can make your own concentrated coffee by doing instant coffee and hot water. You're going to want it like pretty hot so that it really dissolves because you don't want it chunky. And so just like a paint mixture, the coffee is just the same. The more coffee you put in your water, the darker it will be. The lighter you have your coffee mixture, the lighter the color. So this is super duper concentrated. So if you're wanting it as dark as I got it, then you're gonna want to do a lot of instant coffee to your very little amount of water. Okay? And instant coffee is really cheap for like a big container of it. These are not cheap, but I happen to have them in my house, so I took them. But the Helena looks so cool in it. I'm gonna do another one. But look, the Helena, because it already has like torn edges, it just soaked up the coffee more than the rest of it. Like it did it on its own. So that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna do a few more. I'm also gonna do a skin to show you. So, and I've got my spoon here in case I need to scoop any of the coffee into the centers of these, because I didn't want it to be so full, because don't boil the still water and use them. Yeah, right? Doesn't it explode or something like that? I don't know. But you know, you could just use hot water as long as you dissolve your instant coffee really well. So I'm going to start with the Helena because it was my favorite. Helena. Did I say Helena? I live on Helena, so it's Helena. Okay, so I'm going to just dip it in like I do my paint mixture. And again, if you get your flowers, you'll notice a lot of times they're a little squished just because of shipping and how we get them and how we have to send them. And all you do is fluff them very easily while you're dyeing them. Because once they're wet, they're flexible. You literally just pop your petals right back into perfect shape. So I'm just going to fluff it if I need to, but this one wasn't needing any. But again, it's very easy to make your flowers perfect shape when you get them wet because the petals are super flexible. So if you're new to Sola and you get a flower and you're like, oh, this one little petal's squished in, don't worry. Do not worry about squished petals. That is the easiest thing to fix. Squishing is not an imperfection, okay? Because a little bit of water or a spritz and they go perfect. Okay, so with this water, I didn't need to fluff or anything ahead of time because this coffee is obviously wet and soaky. There is no glycerin in here. They stayed pretty soft because it's not paint. So the only reason why people use glycerin is because paint itself hardens when it dries, but coffee doesn't harden when it dries. So these should stay pretty soft without needing anything else. Okay, so this was the Helena in my coffee. Okay, I'm gonna try a Dahlia next. Okay, so here's my Dahlia. This is a 2-inch Dahlia. I was wondering if the edges of this would take the same way. I'm sure all the flowers would take it a little bit differently because how they're cut, how the petals are cut. So I'm wondering how that's gonna be. So again, this is just straight up concentrated coffee. Again, I used a cold brew cup that already was mixed. It's a concentrated mixture. But to make your coffee mixture, if you don't have one of those, you just get instant coffee and you put a lot of coffee to a little bit of water. And again, the darker you want it, the more coffee you can put in it. Yes, beet juice does work too. I think anything, actually Stacy just sent me the today, like how you dye Easter eggs or something with things. A lot of that stuff you can do. But my look, again, I wasn't looking just for a different way to dye things. I wanted it to look antique. Okay? So this is the Dahlia and the coffee. Okay, I just want them to look like aged. Like as if you had these white Sola flowers and you've had them for so long that they, you know, sat in an attic and then someone found them 100 years later. That's the look I'm going for. That's like my favorite thing. I love to go to like thrift shops and stuff to like think of all those stories of like who had these antique things before I did. Like I always think about that with like sewing machines and stuff, like who used this and what did they make? So that's why I wanted to make something like this. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do for our next thing. Yeah, we're wanting it to be antiqued here. Yeah, Victorian. Okay. This coffee smells so strong too because there's so many. No, I did not use glycerin, Carmen. Again, glycerin is used in paint mixture because paint hardens when it dries, whereas a coffee doesn't harden when it does. You can definitely use tea, but I did want them a little bit darker than I think a tea would get. Yeah. I do see more people joining us. Just remember, guys, there is a sale that is 60% off of our regular Sola Flowers on lovesolaflowers.com, and you're just going to use the code March60. It shouldn't mold if you dry them, dry them good. I put them in front of a fan. Yeah, that would look nice. Yeah, think about it, because you could even dye these something first. You know what I mean? You could dye them first and then you could dip it in the coffee so you can age it. You can maybe do like, what's another color? Like a yellow, and then have brown edges. So these are the ones that have some skin in them. I'm reading your things. But yeah, no, you shouldn't. I mean, the only reason mold would ever happen is if something stayed wet. So what I would do is just stick these in front of the fan the same way. And actually, these, because it's just coffee, you could totally dry them. You could totally dry them in the oven and it not be a big deal. Yes. Okay. So a good, actually, Sultan just put up the coupon code for you guys if you forgot the coupon code. But a good, for this kind of project, if you're going to want to buy stuff for this project, I know, right? I'm like, it's late at night. Maybe I could just like dye a flower, take a sip. But what was I going to say? So yeah, the fillers, they're 25% off. So a good one for like an antique look would be things like Baby's Breath. Because that was like a pretty Victorian style filler type thing that people would use. Yeah, I think it would be great. So I'm going to put this coffee away. I'm not going to drink it, I promise, because it is dirty now. But we're just going to put it to the side for now. Okay, I'm going to move my tray. So this is all we have to do for our flowers. This might just, ooh, it stains your fingers too, FYI. Just realized that. No, Maria, it's so funny. I just was saying it does. Look. I mean, that's paint, but those 3 fingers are from the coffee. So apparently it does stain, and who knows when that will come off, but it just blends in with all my paint. So that's so funny, Maria. You said it right when I was going to tell you. I noticed in this light my fingers were dyed, actually. So I'm going to move this on the ground. Okay, so this is the dangerous part, okay? This is dangerous. I take this very seriously. I know I'm doing it in my living room on a little craft table, but I am taking it serious, and I practiced a whole lot just to make sure I knew what I was doing and I didn't catch like my living room on fire. So take this very seriously. Maybe do it in your kitchen, by a sink or something. Right, Sherry? Fillers are amazing. Love Sola has like the highest quality fillers. Sultan doesn't joke around when he looks for vendors for these kinds of things. So anyway, so we're gonna work with fire. And I'm gonna try not to light myself on fire or my living room or anything, but I did practice a lot. That's what took me so long. That's why it's a late night one, because I kept practicing to make sure I knew what I was doing. So yeah, it really does stain. Anyway, so what I did, and this is easy because you don't need to have like an old book or anything like that. You can print this off of the computer. So I printed off sheet music for the song You Are My Sunshine. Okay, so you could pick obviously any song, and how you would get sheet music is you can go to Google and you're gonna just Google whatever song you want, or a poem or Bible verse or whatever, whatever you're wanting to do. Maria, that is crazy. How do you live without drinking coffee? That's crazy. Anyway, so you're gonna pick whatever you want. You're gonna Google. So I Googled "You Are My Sunshine" sheet music. And then you click on images. And I picked which one I thought was the prettiest, okay? So, because some sheet music doesn't have a whole lot of notes in it, so I just went through them until I saw one that I liked, and I wanted it, obviously, not just the music, but I wanted the words on it. So you can do a poem, you could do a Bible verse, you don't need to get any books. I know, Barbara, I'm a little nervous too. I don't want to light like myself on fire, my hair on fire, or something. Actually, let me put that back. I want to light my hair on fire on like a live video, but call 911 if it does. So anyway, so I have it here, and what we're gonna do is we're going to rip around the edges, okay? So first I'm gonna go, and you're just gonna tear so that it's not a solid edge, okay? And if you really want it to look old, you can kind of pull it in even further. The one I did, I burnt a really big hole in it. I'm not going to say it was on purpose, but it looks really good because it looks really old. You can also, oh no, Christina, I smell like coffee. It probably comes out my pores. So maybe we can't be in the same room because I feel like it's like my perfume. Anyway, so you can get, you know, as old and ancient as you want to get with this thing. Now you can also do maps. I love maps. That's one of the favorite things. Like I love to do a map on, well, this is really strong too. This is really strong. But maps on like a piece of luggage, you know, one of those like fake decorative luggages. So there's lots of things we can do. Again, we're just doing preparation for the craft that we're going to use these for next week, okay? So we're going to do the fire now. And I'm really going to try to be very, very careful. Again, I've practiced this a long time. It's the only reason why I feel safe doing it here in my living room. You may want to do it right next to a sink, okay? Now, I have, this is a plate full of water, okay? So you have to have something that you're going to be able to dip it. Stacy, stop. I'm doing it. Don't give away my tutorial. That's what we're doing. Shh. Can't do that first. Otherwise it's wet and then it won't burn. So we are going to do that. Don't give away the rest of my tutorial. Okay? So make sure you have a tray of water because it's how you put the fire out. Okay? You need to have, if I say this again, you need to have a thing of water near you. Okay? Because that is how we are putting the fire out. Just want to make sure that we are very clear. Okay? Now, you got to use one of these because you do not want to use a little lighter where your fingers are close to the fire. We want to be very far away from the fire. Also, and don't worry, I did watch videos on this. Also, you don't want to put the fire super, super close to the paper. You want it to go a little bit further away so that it naturally singes, okay? All right, so let's start. So I ripped my edges, as you can see, and we are going to start to burn on one corner. And I'm just going to put my fire on. And as soon as it catches, actually, let me say it before I put it. As soon as it catches on fire, I'm going to dip it in the water. Okay, that's how we put it out. Remember, have water near the fire. Okay, so I'm going to light the edge on fire, and I'm going to dip it in the water to put it out. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing it. Now, if you want it to be a little bit further out, you can let it burn a little longer. And don't worry about these black chunks right now because I know. Don't worry about the black chunks because we're going to get rid of them in a minute. So we're just going to try these edges. Okay, so again, the further you let it go in, I want it to look like that because it's you're gonna move the black away. So don't worry about it going there right now because you want it to go in some of the places. So I'm just watching carefully. Again, some of them I wanted to catch on fire for a little longer, like that. I'm gonna let it go for a second, and then I'm gonna dip it in the water. okay? Because I want it to go in a little further. Kind of like a hole. Okay, again, don't worry about the black right now. It goes away. And even when it's a little wet, you can singe the edges. I want to answer your questions too, but I also don't want to take my face off the fire. So if you have a question I miss, I will see it after. Okay, so I'm burning some of it up. Some of it's just around the edges. Again, you're going to want to do this. I know, I am, I promise, I'm paying attention to the fire. Again, you're definitely not wanting to do this without water. I want to make sure you're all noticing I'm dipping it in water. Okay, because blowing it out might just spread it on the paper. So you're wanting to make sure you're using water. So now I'm just singeing some of the areas that are wet. I promise I'll look up in a second. I just don't want to look up while I got fire going on. So these wet edges now, you can singe them and it won't spread. So I'm just going around to see if I want any of the edges a little more burnt. Okay. All right. So as you can see, we've got these black pieces. And I'm going to try to keep that little hanging thing on it because I want it. So I'm just going to wipe away some of those charred pieces with my fingers. Okay. You literally can just kind of grab at it and it melts right off the paper. All right. One more side. And again, you can do this with maps. You can do it with Bible verses. You can do it with other music. You could do it with love poem. You can do it if you have, you know, even if you have a card from someone who like gave you something, you can do a photocopy of it. Obviously don't ruin the real card, but you can do a photocopy so that you have like handwriting. Like let's say, you know, a grandmother wrote you a card with a nice inscription in it. You can actually make a photocopy of the card or the letter and then do the same thing as I'm doing with this, okay? Now I'm gonna put my water to the side now. Now that we've burnt up the edges of our paper, and again, we're doing an antique-y look right now. Okay, so I'm gonna put this here. So as you can see, it's got like extra holes in some spots like it would if it were old. I'm gonna bring back my coffee, even though Stacy did a spoiler. And we're gonna actually stain our sheet music with the coffee as well. So if we're gonna waste our coffee, we might as well use it on everything we can think of. So what I'm gonna do is I have a spongy brush and I'm just gonna paint it onto my sheet music. Now I'm leaving it on I'm doing it on a mat that I'm gonna actually let it dry out on, okay? So make sure you're not just doing it weird, because once it's really, really wet, it's gonna be hard to pick up. So do it on the mat that you're gonna let it dry on. And it's okay if it gets wrinkly a little bit, even though we'll straighten it out a little bit once I'm done. But you're okay doing that because that's the whole point. Again, we're antiquing something. So that would just give a look of the age as well. Again, this is just straight up coffee. If you don't have a cold brew type concentrated coffee, you just make it with instant coffee. Remember, the more coffee you use, the darker it will stain. Okay. Ooh, I just splattered that everywhere. Okay. I'm gonna just take a paper towel just to get off my extra little droops here. I'm gonna hold it up for you guys to see it. It's just printer paper. I'm sure you could, well, I'm not sure. I mean, would I guess like a thicker paper, like a cardstock might work too. But I wanted it to be pretty fragile so that it looks kind of like, so it looks fragile. Now I'm gonna just try to pull the wrinkles out just a little bit, but I want to keep some of them in there. Again, the wrinkles add to the age. Oop, I got my hair in there. You don't want that to dry on there. Okay. There's just a spot. There's one little spot that's extra white here. There we go. The ad carrot. Yeah, I love the like imperfections is what really actually makes it look real. Like it didn't look like I just printed it off I mean, the whole point would be so it doesn't look like I just printed it off my hair's sticking to it though, off my computer. Okay, so I'm gonna hold it up for you guys to see. And then you're just gonna dry it. You can actually put it in front of a fan and it dries pretty fast. I mean, would you be able to tell that I just printed that off my computer on computer paper like an hour ago? Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so we stained this with the same coffee mixture as we stained our flowers. Now I'm going to bring up some flowers next to it just so you can see if you just are joining us. We dyed some of these flowers. Oh, you can't see it there. Let's see. Let me put it on this side. Okay, just so you can see them together. All right. And these solo flowers are regular solo flowers. So the Helena is part of the 60% off. The code to get percentages off is March 60. That's on lovesoloflower.com. And the Helena for me looked the most awesome for this look because it already has like ripped edges and the coffee seems to stick in those edges more than it does on the rest of the flower, which is totally going to be perfect for the look we're going for. So if you are ordering tonight during our sale and are going to want to do this craft with us, we're going to actually put the craft together next week once everything is dry. If you're wanting to do it, you should get things like baby's breath and kind of those maybe Caspia, some things that kind of look aged, German status. What are some other good ones? You can do natural star flowers. That will all look good with this kind of antique-y look going on. So again, we dyed our flowers with this concentrated coffee mix. We are going to put some raw flowers with it too when we make our project, but we wanted some of these kind of antique-y looking things. And then we did our burnt sheet music. Again, make sure you are near water. I wouldn't suggest your first time to be in the living room like I'm doing, but and then you're gonna lay it out on a sheet like this, and I'm gonna put it in front of a fan so that it dries. Again, if it dries a little bit wrinkly, it's okay. Again, you can burn holes even in the center. If you don't really care what the actual saying is, you can burn a hole even in the center, and that would look pretty cool. But again, you can do things like maps, you can do sheet music, you can do poems, you can do cards from, you know, grandmas and grandpas and things. You can just photocopy them because you're going to age it with the coffee as well. So it will look always old no matter what you do. So here's what we are doing. Again, there was no glycerin in my mix. It was straight up concentrated coffee. The reason why is because glycerin is used because paint hardens when it dries, but coffee won't. So I didn't do glycerin, so they should feel the same as when they start. And then I did my sheet music in the same coffee mixture as I did my flowers, so you don't need to waste that. And that is it. So this is part 1. Part 2 is going to be next week. So buy your stuff, your supplies, print out some good things like sheet music and poems and all that. Get all that ready, burn all your edges, do the whole coffee shenanigans. Again, if you're looking for a flower that takes this coffee dyeing well, use the Helena. March 60 is the 60% off code, and get fillers that are more dry than like alive, because again, we're going for the antique and Victoria look. We want things like the Baby's Breath, German Status, Caspia, Star Flowers, the Bloom's Broom. What else is there? I'm trying to think of any other dry. Setaria would be good. Phalaris would be really good. Rice grass, that would look really pretty. I'm going to use rice grass actually. So those are the kind of fillers you're wanting to use. If they say dried, use more of the dried. Lavender was a very popular Victorian, flower. So get all those dry things, and we will make this next week. Okay, so again, March 60 is the 60% off code for regular Soul of Flowers. Fillers and Fifth Avenue are 25%. So get them while they're on sale, and then if you do that, you can do this project along with me next week. All right, that's it. I'm going to share the video, so if you missed the beginning part where we actually dyed the flowers, once I share it, you'll be able to watch it in the replay. And if you're watching the replay, please ask questions and we will come and answer them, at least as a reply, and type you the answer that way. All right, guys, have a good night.